Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. It's a pleasure to be back. It's a Friday late night. We are 30 minutes late. Um, I don't even know what to tell you guys, but it is what it is. So apologies for being so late once again, but I figured better late than never. We can still hoop on here for at least the next 30 minutes and have this conversation. And we have a bit of a discussion about Liverpool's rejected bid for Alexander Isak and perhaps any topic that may interest you, including the ongoing negotiations between Liverpool, between Darwin Nunez's camp and that of Al Hilal, because they are interested in signing the 26-year Uruguayan striker. So, excuse me, we will have that discussion and a little more. So, kindly indulge me on this one, and we'll get the conversation going, really. But yeah, otherwise, how has been your day? How are you guys doing? I hope everything is okay with you. I hope you're good. I hope you've had a wonderful Friday. It starts to the new month. Happy new month to you all. Yeah. Anyways, so as the case always is, there's a lot to discuss. LFC, good to have you. Good evening. I'm sure you must be excited about today because news has sort of been sweeping in Liverpool's direction. Maybe not to the best of interest, but at least it does give a size of hope that maybe whatever is capturing the cloud will finally let it open when it comes to Liverpool's pursuit for Alexander Isak. So, yeah, we are back. He is the person we are discussing in the morning, and he remains the topic of discussion even as of now because there's been developments, lots of developments in the work of Alexander Isak. In the morning, we're discussing about him, reportedly training alone at his previous club in Real Sociedad in Spain, and then today during the course of the day, we did receive that news that Liverpool had made an official offer to try and sign the Swedish striker, although that offer was ultimately rejected, and in the strongest terms possible, not because Newcastle do not want to sell particularly, but because they thought it was too low for Liverpool. Otherwise, good evening to you all. Welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is my name. I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda, where it's 33 minutes past the hour of 11 p.m. This night. For those of you that are just joining us, welcome to the community. Please like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel if you're new here and help me to 2,000 subscribers. That's the objective for now. So do me that absolute favor, that absolute honor, and like the broadcast, but more importantly, subscribe to the channel. Do let me know where you're joining us from, and I will be reading all your comments as we go on through the course of this discussion. I've received some fair share of criticism when it comes to reading comments. Sometimes they interrupt the topic of discussion, but it is part of the conversation because I do value all your input in purposes of having these discussions. So we did receive that exclusive news from The Athletic that Newcastle had rejected an official bid from Liverpool for Alexander Isak. So the initial approach was informal, and now a firm Liverpool offer had been turned down. According to multiple sources, that offer was in the region of £110 million, which was guaranteed fees without add-ons, according to Ben Jacobs, while other sources do indicate it was in the region of £120 million. Jet Horror, how are you doing? Hi, where are you joining us from? It's good to have you on the broadcast. Do let me know where you're joining us from this evening, and possibly, if you do not mind, possibly what time it is in your current area. So, Newcastle suggested a new deal to the 25-year-old with a 2026 release clause, and senior teammates pushed the 25-year-old to stay, but wants the move. Thomas, hi Thomas. Good evening to you, my brother. Where are you joining us from? Oh, apologies if I if for calling you my brother, because I do not know what your gender is. Sometimes names are shared, and my quick assumption is that you're male. But anyways, I do accept my sincere apologies on that one, if in case you found it offending. So, and basically, when it comes to the idea that he's been given, a contract offer or a new deal to stay at the club with an option of releasing him next summer, is part of what we've been saying, literally ever since he did request that he does leave the club. It's one of the options we said Newcastle could have. And it is sort of validating to hear that they have taken that direction, or it is one of the options that they are considering taking, because it's not as easy as saying, Liverpool have made a good offer, let's let the player go, because also Newcastle are alive to the fact that approaching the market has not been strict, has not been easy. It's not by any measure gone to their wishes or their expectations. By all accounts and measures, you could say so far now it feels like an underperformance. I wouldn't call it a total failure, because at least they've been able to bring in two players in Aaron Ramsdale and Anthony Elanga, but by the scale of 1 to 10, I think I would give them maybe a 4 or 3.5 out of 10, depending on what their expectations going into this transfer window were. Because they are alive to the fact that, Thomas says it's fine, good to know. They are alive to the fact that they have struggled to land their primary targets. They are alive to the market that the strikers market is a bit of a narrow one. It's a bit of quite a bit of a closed circle where Nulo, Nkuna, Hi Nkuna, where are you joining us from? So they are alive to all those facts that all their striking pursuits who by ticket, they failed with that one. He ended up at Liverpool for £79 million, 69 being their guaranteed fees plus 10 in expected add-ons. They are really trying to push for Benjamin Sesko, but they know Manchester United are well within that race, and possibly they could win it. They've tried to sign Yohan Wissa, and so far that path has also been so far closed. It's not sealed off entirely. It could reopen, but they've had two bids rejected, an opening bid of about £25 million turned down, and then a second bid in the excess of £30 million plus £5 million in expected excuse me, in expected add-ons also declined. So with Brentford insisting that the player is not for sale, even though the player has adamantly reaffirmed it to the club that he would want to leave this summer. 28 years of age, I think he does look at this as the only opportunity he may get in his career to play in the UEFA Champions League, which is an attractive kind of, an attractive, a challenge to take on for a team like Newcastle. Obviously, by all counts and measures, Newcastle are a bigger team compared to Brentford. In any case, he would be having an improvement on his wages. So he's also staring down the barrel of retirement, which if he is going to go on to have a very long career, then possibly it has 10 years left to eat, or 5 years or 7 years, depending on how it goes for him. So when you look at it in that perspective, he looks at it and says, okay, even if it were not for UEFA Champions League football, I do believe that Newcastle are giving me a better offer when it comes on my wages. So even if it's a 20% increase on his wages, which at the moment we do not know about, but it would still be an attractive deal too. And then Newcastle would be an upgrade on Brentford, in terms of our club profile, in terms of where they eventually finish in the Premier League and everything that you would want to, place measurement on it. So that's how, in fact, you would want to look at it. So it's not really been easy for Newcastle to sign players, and they are well alive to that. In fact, they've made it clear that unless they do sign a replacement, they won't be letting Alexander Isak go. But when we were starting to have these discussions, I said Newcastle could choose to go down this path, stick to their guns and say, you have a 3-year contract. What we're going to do is we will have a gentleman's agreement if he's open to listening to that kind of arrangement, because club officials have been known to going back on their word when it comes to that. Victor Gyökeres is a perfect example in that way. But it could be even, written in dry ink that we're not letting go you in this summer, but if our current valuation of you is 200 million pounds, but we are willing to let you go next summer. That's at the end of 2025-2026 season for a reduced amount of fee. So if our current valuation is 200 million pounds, we will be willing to let you go for 150 million pounds come next summer. That could be an arrangement. I'm not saying those should be the exact figures, but I'm simply speculating or estimating in that kind of, or situation or alternative. Then two, the other option could be, yes, you asked to leave, but you're still under contract. You still have 3 years left on your contract. Play this season, and you will let you go next summer without even revisiting his terms of the contract. So because at the end of the incoming season, he would still have 2 years left to that contract. So again, Newcastle would still be in a strong position when it comes to his presence at the club. So Newcastle are in a really, really strong position contract-wise in terms of the player. They do have the upper hand. They hope that the player can be reintegrated with the rest of the squad when they return from their Asian pre-season tour. Excuse me. And like David Austin put it outrightly, is that senior members of that squad or senior teammates have tried to persuade him to stay. By senior members of the club, I am assuming players like Bruno Guimaraes, players like Jolinton, maybe the likes of Dunban, maybe the likes of Nick Pope, Steven Botman, maybe Kieran Trippier, Jacob Murphy, those kinds of players, because Newcastle wouldn't want to strip themselves of a star player in Alexander Isak, and you remain with William Osula while you're still struggling in the market to land, targets. So that's the sort of unfortunate position that Newcastle do find themselves in. But at least we did get that word that an official bid from Liverpool had been rejected. Now, according to Ben Jacobs, Liverpool are unwilling to send in a second bid if not until Newcastle soften their stance or open that window to receive a new bid for Alexander Isak. So he says, and I quote, Liverpool said no second bid planned as it stands, as revealed. A bid was 110 million pounds fixed with no add-ons, and I think maybe in part that's why it was rejected. I mean, how do you go as a team like Liverpool go and sign flying bids for 100 million pounds guaranteed fees, and then you're coming in at 110 for Alexander Isak? Basically, that's I say it has an ounce of contempt to it. It's an undervaluation if we are making comparisons, because we are talking about a Premier League proven striker who's been hammering it. I think he has a tally of about 54 goals. It should be around 54 goals in about 86 appearances in the Premier League. How many strikers do have that tally? I think it could be Mohamed Salah and about Erling Haaland, who could have a better record within that period of the last 3 seasons. So if you're Newcastle, you're well varied with that. He adds that personal terms with Isak are not a problem. Of course, we did reveal to you sometime this week that he had reached an agreement in principle with the Reds over a 6-year contract. What we did disagree were the reports that he would arrive at the same wage bill as Hugo Ekitike. I'm not inclined to believe whatsoever that would be the case, unless really indeed Hugo Ekitike had shrewd negotiators when it came to his contract. Then Liverpool bid with optimism this morning, but Newcastle's response was so quick and strong. Another bid is not currently in the works. Key now is how Alexander Isak responds. Newcastle hoping he reintegrates and are prepared to offer him a new contract, likely with the ability to leave next summer. That's what we're discussing. Should Isak double down and continue to push for a move and Newcastle find a striker replacement, Liverpool could revisit their stance, but only if Newcastle contact them to offer encouragement. Liverpool won't bid again unless Newcastle indicate they will discuss a sale. Now, if I'm Newcastle, even when I get a preferred replacement of a striker, I'm not knocking on Liverpool's door to say, come, let's talk. I'm not doing that. The reason for that, the moment you approach Liverpool, then it means now they get a little bit of leverage in terms of negotiations because you would have gone to them. Look at it this way. You have a piece of land that you're selling. A rich man is willing to buy you out and he offers, let's say, $1 million, which you turn down because maybe you value the plot of land at $5 million. Now, if you go back to them, they could even disrespect you and say, I'm now offering 900,000, not $1 million. Of course, which would be literally a mock to you because why? You have approached them. So I do not think at any one point Newcastle would like to revisit that kind of path. Even if it were to go through tens of third parties until it reaches Liverpool, I do not think, I wouldn't advise, I do not think it would be wise for Newcastle to take down that direction. Because in any case, even if they had two prime strikers, at the end of the day, I think they would be able to afford paying them for one season, given that they have UEFA Champions League football. JY815 says, Como are winning Serie A. Most definitely not. But I do hope that they go on and perform really, really well. I will come to Como in just a bit. So those are the discussions, or that's what we are getting when it comes to this Liverpool situation and the pursuit of Alexander Isak. Tester for life. How is it, man? It's all good. How are you guys doing? I hope you've had a wonderful start to the new month of August. I hope Friday has been kind to you. To our Muslim brothers and sisters, Salam Alaikum. I hope you had a wonderful Friday. So basically, that's the current situation or the environment that within which Newcastle and Liverpool are operating. But the idea that for Liverpool to make a second bid, they would need encouragement, or for Newcastle to approach them first, I wouldn't take that school of thought. I wouldn't take that line. What time is it in Uganda? It's 12 minutes to the top to midnight. 12 minutes to midnight. And that's the time. Thank you so much, JY, for asking. Antesta says, are you feeling better today? Slightly. I did do the steaming in the morning. And I think at some point of the day, especially in the morning hours, I didn't have it good, but the second half of the day has been slightly better. Must acknowledge. It's 3:49 in Illinois, USA. Is that PM or AM? Illinois. I do not know why. Every time I hear Illinois, I mistake it for Illinois. Are the two the same? Illinois or Illinois and Illinois? Because I used to watch some American shows, particularly I think it was The X Factor, USA, and people would come and say, I'm from Illinois, Chicago. Now you're saying Illinois. But anyways, whatever it is. Artesta says it's 20:15 p.m. now in South Africa. Wow. You guys are, by the way, just 1 hour ahead of you. So yeah. Ronaldo or Messi, that's Elias or 7. Football, Messi, I think they're both great players. I wouldn't want to choose either. Both are very great within their own respects. Both legends of the game, actually living legends of the game. They continue to, do things in football that no man has done yet. Messi, at the age of 38, is still banging it at Inter Miami. Cristiano Ronaldo at Al Nassr is still turning heads, even at the Portuguese national team. So really, two great guys at the game. Produced without the S. Oh, pronounced without the S. Okay. Oh, Illinois. Oh, Illinois. Okay. George Olpot. Hi, George. George is a Ugandan from the eastern part of the country. It's good to have you, George, rejoin us. So, thank you so much. Messi clears. That's JY. So, guys, in the context of Alexander Isak and Liverpool, that's the situation. Liverpool placed the formal bid worth £110 million, although some sources did initially suggest that the total package was up to £120 million, with £110 million guaranteed, plus 10 in add-ons. But more credible sources have come out to reaffirm that it was 110 million pounds guaranteed fees with no add-ons. So that's what we are getting. Newcastle turned down that bid right from the onset, and there has not been any development whatsoever on that front. Which then takes us to the topic of Manchester United's pursuit for Benjamin Sesko. They continue to pursue the player. They've already informed RB Leipzig that they will be making a form of a bid for him, but that's still in the pipeline. Newcastle are equally ready to make a formal offer to RB Leipzig. The challenge with both teams, and while reports do suggest that there is an inclination for Benjamin Sesko to choose Manchester United over Newcastle, he has not yet said okay to personal terms from Manchester United. No, as he said okay to personal terms from the Newcastle side. He's not told them outright that it's a no-go zone, but that's the situation around him. Vam says, you know, Virat Kohli? No, I'm not familiar with Virat Kohli. JY says, Rio should sell Vini and try to buy Isak. If I'm Real Madrid, I'm not selling Vinicius Jr. to buy Alexander Isak. However, I may sell a bunch of players, the likes of Brahim Diaz, the likes of Dani Ceballos, and then help to fund a move for a player like Alexander Isak. That's what I would do. Maybe I would consider letting go of Rodrigo Goes and then buy Alexander Isak, but I wouldn't be selling Vinicius Jr. unless the situation persists that Real Madrid can't find an agreement on new contract terms with the Brazilian forward. So that would be the circumstances to which I would put it. So that would be my comment about that. So, excuse me. So, like I said, Newcastle sort of stole the day with Liverpool in their pursuits, and then still staying with Liverpool, Darwin Núñez remains an option for Al Hilal. Internal talks are taking place over whether to approach Liverpool with key input from Simone Inzaghi. First, Al Hilal will certainly sign a new striker. Liverpool value the player at about 70 million euros, which was a turn-off factor for Napoli in their discussions. So, excuse me, we said this all summer that Al Hilal were in the market for a striker. They had wanted to sign Victor Osimhen, but he turned them down, prioritizing a move to Galatasaray, which he did complete in the course of this week. So let's just wait and see how things will develop in that regard when it comes to Darwin Núñez. Al Hilal want to sign about 8 players, I think. So let's wait and see what they will be able to do in this transfer window, in as far as transfers are concerned. But they do have a couple of Premier League targets for players. Drink some water, mate. Yeah, I've been taking lots of water in the last couple of days, more than I usually take. So I do hang around with my bottle here. But thanks for the advice. Thanks for the advice, really. So, anyways, that's the situation with Alexander Isak. Darwin Núñez could be on the move. And by the way, Liverpool are not just good at buying, they're also good at selling. Because if they move on a player like Darwin Núñez for 70 million euros, that would be huge income coming in. You remember they managed to move on Luis Diaz for a similar amount of fee, which was 70 million euros plus 5 in expected add-ons, which is a good fee for a 28-year-old. Really, I found that impressive. Now, according to ESPN Brazil, Rodrigo has several intermediaries working on a Real Madrid exit, with the player favoring a Premier League move. However, Rodrigo's wage demands are very high for Arsenal, and a move to the Gunners no longer seems likely. This is something we spoke about a couple of days ago, and I was saying that Rodrigo Goes' wages could be a bit of a turnoff, for most suitors. But let's wait and see. Situations could change. The player could soften his demands for when it comes to wages, and you never know. Anything can happen. So, because earlier on in the summer, it had been revealed that Arsenal had made him their #1 target. However, not much has developed ever since then. In the wake of that news, there's not been major progress. So they remain in the market. That's Arsenal for a number 10, and their preference is Abelechi Eze, whose release clause expired today. I think it expires today. that release clause of £60 million plus 8 in expected add-ons. So what that means is that either his price valuation goes up or it could go down a notch lower. Now, apparently, Arsenal would expect to get a deal done for about £55 million, similar to what it costs for the likes of Anthony Elanga and Noni Madueke, because they look at the player within the same sort of cohort of bracket. That's how they do look at it. And while this one is 27 years of age with 2 years left to his contract, I feel that it is a deal possible that they can do if they can agree on a payment structure, because reports do suggest also Crystal Palace want about 30 to 35 million pounds in initial payments if a deal is to be reached. You think Gyökeres is going to be good? I think he will be good. Because of his energy, his athleticism, his physicality, I'm inclined to believe that he will thrive. He will thrive. Of course, he will have some difficult games. He will have games where things do not click, just like it happens to any player. We've seen that a great deal of times, including Mohamed Salah. You remember when they faced off with PSG in the UEFA Champions League at the round of 16, and Nuno Mendes defended against him so well that he was predominantly quiet in that game. So those things are bound to happen. So let's just wait and see. I see Rafael Leao is also a target now for Arsenal. The thing about Rafael Leao is that many Arsenal fans would love to see him at Arsenal. However, when it comes to reports as coming out of major sources or major outlets, when it comes to Rafael Leao, nothing much has been mentioned to that regard. But he is a player that a lot of fans appreciate, a lot of sort of analysts and pundits do appreciate. He's a very, very good player. He's one of those players that guarantees you across all competitions a 20 plus goal contribution, possibly even 25. Because I think last season he scored 9 goals and provided 8 assists. I think 9 goals and 9 assists around those, and yet AC Milan finished 8th. So he's one of those sort of standout players when it comes to performance in an AC Milan shirt. Yes, sometimes he tends to go cold for certain parts of the season, but overall he's a very, very good player. One time, and I've said this here before, and I'll repeat it again. For me, I would choose Rafael Leao over Rodrigo Goes. One, because I feel that physically he is built for the Premier League. Physically, he would have the edge over Rodrigo Goes. Now, naturally, talent-wise, Rodrigo Goes, I do believe, without an ounce of doubt, is a better talent compared to Rafael Leao when it comes to flair, slickness, dribbling, and things like that. But I like Rafael Leao's pace. I like his energy. I like his physicality. So I get the feeling that he will do well in the Premier League. So that's why I keep, sounding that bell. And if our Andrea Bata, or if I was one of his, whispers, ear whisperers, I would, I'd be whispering the name Rafael Leao in his ears. Now, according to some sources, they say that Arsenal are not looking at Ebeleche as a left winger. They are predominantly looking at him as a number 10, as a creative midfielder. That's how they are looking at him, which sends words of encouragement that possibly we cannot rule out Arsenal making a move for a left winger. Now, one of the players that has again returned to the fold, he's previously been linked with a potential move to Arsenal, but PSG are not willing to sell. But he's another player that Arsenal fans do really, really appreciate. That's Bradley Barcola, the 22-year-old French, forward at PSG. I'm sure for those of you that do watch the UEFA Champions League and perhaps the French League one, you may have seen the player with they're called what? They called cornrows, not cornrows, but with braided hair. I'm sure you've seen him around. A very, very good youngster that is really, really also appreciated within the realms of the game. I like 10 plus goals, a good and golden boot, good. I think good enough to compete for those. 10 plus goals, I think, would be low. I put it at 15, although other people think he can even hit 20. That's in the Premier League alone. Then across all competitions, they feel he has the ability to make it 30, while I'll be inclined to go to about 20, 25, around there for his debut campaign. But let's wait and see. What I would be intent on is sort of toning down the pressure that may weigh on his shoulders, because he's walked into a team that has lacked a striker, an outright number 9 for a good couple of years. So that in itself comes with a bit of pressure. There's a lot of expectations from the fans that he needs to get the ground running. If he were to get a goal on his opening day of the Premier League, that's against Manchester United, it would be great, regardless of what the final result would be. If he were to get a goal in that game, I think it would work to his advantage in terms of confidence and overall, media scrutiny. The way you remember Anthony Martial when he had just joined Manchester United and scored that Henry-like goal against Liverpool. So I think it will do him well. You said Victor is a goal-scoring machine, but the Premier League is another level. That's true. It comes with its own difficulty of playing in. But like I said, all transfers are a gamble. Even when you buy a Premier League proven player, they could come to your club and still not hack it. For those of you that have been here before, you remember when Tottenham Hotspur bought Darren Bent from Charlton Athletic. It did not work out. I think he was at Tottenham for about 2 seasons. It did not work out. He then got sold to Sunderland, where he smashed it. In the 2009, I think 2010 season, he scored about 24 Premier League goals, and Wayne Rooney scored 26 in that, in that season. And I remember having a debate with people in that season, telling people that, in my opinion, Darren Benty had a better season than Wayne Rooney. And my argument for that purposely was because if you're playing for Sunderland and you score 24 goals, you're better than a Manchester United player who has scored 26 goals or 30, because Man United were by far a better team than what Sunderland were at the time. So that's the kind of game he had. So he got very impressive at Sunderland, that Aston Villa bought him quite expensively, by the way, to go and play for them. And unfortunately, he was unable to hit the same kind of numbers. Then I've also oftentimes used the example of Claudio Pizarro coming in from Bayern Munich to Chelsea. Very good player, but he failed to hack it. I also used the example of Fernando Torres, coming from Liverpool in 2011, January, to Chelsea for £50 million, and things did not click for him at Chelsea. So it's a gamble. Let's not always forget that when it comes to these assessments of some of these players. You say that's what they said about Erling Haaland. Yes, some players do come and they are instant clicks. But I can also give you more examples of players. People talk about Thierry Henry being the greatest Premier League player, but they forget he also struggled at the start. He also struggled to find his footing in the Premier League. We also talk about players like Andrei Shevchenko. You remember him at AC Milan, stellar player, the Ukraine, but he came to Chelsea and things did not work out. You look at players like who I think it was Drogba. People think that when you look at Drogba, you may think that he was smashing 20 goals every season, but it was never the case. He wasn't, smashing goals in every season. He had a very good spell, particularly the 2009-2010 season. He was the top scorer when he scored 29 Premier League goals, including a hat-trick on the final day against Wigan Athletic. And the reason as why I do remember that game vividly is because Chelsea won a penalty. They won, I think, 2 penalties in that game. And the first penalty, Frank Lampard was desperate to take that penalty, as if he did not remember that Didier Drogba was tied on 26 goals with Wayne Rooney, and they were bound to share the Golden Boot, and that the guy was, trying to push to win the Golden Boot. So it's like he had forgotten about everything to do with that, and he decided to take that first penalty. But eventually, when the second penalty came in, he let him take. So that hat-trick that he scored included a penalty for him. It included a penalty, and yeah. So sometimes it happens that some players are instant clicks. while others, it takes them time to sort of jail. Look at a player like Enzo Fernandez at Chelsea. When he had just come in, he was basically, eating the grass. Things weren't clicking for him. And present day, he looks like a totally different player. Jordan Sancho is a perfect example. True. I certainly do agree with you. He was smashing it at Borussia Dortmund. Has it worked out for him in the Premier League? Definitely not. Paul Pogba, you know, it's not worked for. It didn't work out for him at in the Premier League the way it had worked for him in the Italian Serie A. With Juventus. So these things do happen. Kenya is the best football team ever. Okay, although I would disagree with you on that one. Then if Borussia Dortmund didn't keep selling their stars, then they would have taken the Bundesliga many times. Again, you see, usually the challenge is that you have very good players who come at different intervals, and because they come at different intervals, bigger teams come poking them up, and particularly I don't know if you guys have been chanced yourself into watching an interview between Jack Wilshere and Mikel Obi, and he was talking about his time at Arsenal, and he said, imagine if Cesc Fabregas stayed at Arsenal, then the rise of Van Persie, Santi Cazorla coming in, and Alexis Sanchez, and they played at Arsenal at some point. He said possibly we could have competed for the Premier League title and possibly won it. But because we're talking about players that came at different intervals, blossomed at different intervals. You had Robin Van Persie in 2011 going to Manchester United. 2 years earlier, you had Cesc Fabregas going to Barcelona. Santi Cazorla came in a different time. Alexis Sanchez comes in 2014, the summer of 2014, after the World Cup in Brazil or during the World Cup in Brazil. So again, Mesut Ozil comes in 2013 and that kind of thing. So when you look at teams like Borussia Dortmund, you had Ousmane Dembele. He was smashing it. Went to Barcelona, where he failed to live to his full potential because apparently, and this I got from I think Kevin Prince-Boateng in one of his interviews with Rio Ferdinand, saying that some players, excuse me, at Barcelona were not working as hard as they should have been because they looked at Messi, because Messi wasn't at, but particularly because based on what Kevin Prince-Boateng says, he wasn't that, he wasn't a hard trainer. He was a simple workout kind of person, and then get the job done. That they would be in the dressing room, getting ready for the game. He's on his phone, scrolling, texting, and then they're getting out for a warm up. He, runs around 10-15 minutes of warm up. He goes back in the dressing room to get ready, juggles his socks a bit around, and then he walks onto the pitch and bang, 1, 2, 3 goals. That's what they were looking at. So RB Leipzig too, yes. And then also, sometimes these clubs need to make money. They need to make money at the end of the day to stay afloat. So sometimes it's that. You remember when Robert Lewandowski left Borussia Dortmund to go to join Bayern Munich, Mario Götze, these were top players, and that's why I give a lot of credit to Marco Reus for sticking out to stay at Bayern Munich, that team that had the likes of Shinji Kagawa, who at one point came to Manchester United. They had players like Brashkovsky. They had they had Matt Hummels. So people like that. I think Jan Sommer, the goalkeeper. So yeah, unfortunately, these things do happen. Look at Brighton. If they are not sold all that, some of their top players, McAllister, Moises Caicedo, Ben White in defense, Pascal Gross, he went to Dortmund, I think. Victor Gyökeres was a Brighton and Hove player at one point. Who else? Joao Pedro, look at him now. I know he's just left the club, but just imagine Marco Cucurella, if all these players were being retained at Brighton and Hove Albion. But usually, bigger teams come, and when bigger teams come, usually it's a dream for these players to play for some of these teams. If Real Madrid are coming in for you, it's a dream for you to play for them, maybe. If Barcelona coming in for you, it's a big move, it's a dream move for you, and you're going to take it. Take the example of Kevin Prince-Boateng. People forget he played for Barcelona. People forget he played for AC Milan. So, and at the time when he went to AC Milan, he was supposed to sign, I think, for Genoa. He was supposed to sign for Genoa that summer. And then apparently his agent calls him and he's like, would you be open to going to AC Milan? And he's like, hell yeah, I would be open. And then he tells him, do not tell anybody about this. He went singing like a canary to his friends, I'm going to AC Milan. And then he signed, to AC Milan. His agent handled the issues with Genoa, and the rest is history. So, yeah, unfortunately, these things happen. Jack Grealish was very good at his previous club, but then he also didn't perform at Manchester City. Yeah, he did not live to the expectations, but also, you see, and part of the challenge for some of these players is that they come from a club where they are the star of the team, where everything good that happens within the team sort of revolves around them. And then they walk into a team that is laden with stars, and suddenly they cannot find their place in that kind of team. I think, look at yourself, for example, take it a notch back to 2010. You have a Barcelona side that has Pedro, that has Thierry Henry, that has let go of Samuel Eto'o and Zlatan Ibrahimovic has come in, that has Lionel Messi, that has David Villa, that has Iniesta, Sergio Busquets, Iniesta, it has Charles Puyol, it has Dani Alves, it has Eric Abidal, it has Gerard Piqué. I mean, if you're walking into that kind of dressing room, even if you've been a star at your own team, these are all stars. You're going to wonder at some point, how do I fit in this team? How do I even break through this team? Because they are all good. Unless you're blind or not very objective, then you may not appreciate it for what it is. Look at yourself if you're a forward player. For example, take the example of Franco Mastantuan, who is joining Real Madrid from River Plate. You're walking into a team that has Vinicius Junior, Kylian Mbappe, Rodrigo Goes, Jude Bellingham. I mean, what are you going to think? Of course, usually when you're a young player, although it can be intimidating a bit, but because you admire with this, you admire playing with these kinds of players, you're going to try to give it your best. But when you're in your 20s and you sort of think you're almost at the same level, once you walk into that dressing room, you're wondering, who am I going to knock out? To confirm my stay in the team, that kind of thing. So it gets to players heads and things like that. And that's why, in a way, I wait to see how things will work out for Liverpool, especially if they do sign Alexander Isak, because you have Hugo Ekitike, who you've just signed. You have Florian Wirtz, who you must accommodate by all accounts and measures in that team because of what it's cost you. You have a Mohamed Salah, who is still very, very productive, regardless of his age. So you must accommodate all these players and you must keep them happy. Otherwise, and because everybody is a star within their own rights, Alexander Isak is going to want to bang in the goals and become the talisman of the team. Mo Salah would still want to show his much relevance to this team. You have Cody Gakpo, who wants to post his good numbers as well. So then you have Hugo Ekitike, who feels he needs to put an imprint on his on this Liverpool team, so that 2-3 years down the road, he's not being traded off the same way we're having Darwin Núñez, and that kind of thing. So I wait to see if Liverpool do make that deal, how everything does work out eventually for them. So, but that will be the situation in that. I hope that answers your questions. Tester of Testers of Life from Gauteng, South Africa. The reason as to why I enjoy some of these places is because I think Sizulu, the language in South Africa has so many similarities with Luganda here in Uganda. That's one of the local languages, but also because I found South African politics a bit interesting. What's your opinion on the new Champions League table that was introduced to the world last season? I think it's a very, very good one. One, because clubs were complaining that they were not making enough money from the UEFA Champions League. That's for starters. So it gives them 2 extra games at the group at table level or at the group stage format, which helps them. But also in the future, I envision this may not be something that comes tomorrow, but in the future, they may still change that format to leave it in a table format, but make it also home and away, as opposed to playing one game for each opponent. But I think it's very good. And for people who are criticizing it, when you look at the teams that reached the semifinals, out of the 4 teams that were in the semifinals, only one had finished outside of the top 4. Only one, and that was PSG. But look at how it got to that place in the semi-final by knocking out Liverpool, who are top of that table. At the quarterfinals, they met, I think, because at the playoff games, they played against Brest, who they beat, I think, by 10 something on aggregate. Then they knocked out Liverpool. Then they knocked out Aston Villa by 5-4. Then they met Arsenal in the semi-finals. Now, Arsenal finished third. Barcelona were in the semi-finals. They finished second on that table format. Then you had Inter Milan in the semi-finals, who also finished fourth on that league table format. So I think it led to every expectation that the teams that were top with at the league format were the same teams that were playing at the later stages of the competition. Something similar happened, I think, in the UEFA Europa League, where you had teams like Manchester United, teams like Olympic Lyon, teams like Tottenham Hotspurs, So, Dylan Ash, hi, good to have you on the broadcast. Who is winning the Super Cup? My odds would go with PSG. My odds would favor PSG to win it. How are you? I hope you're doing well. I need to go now. Have a blessed day. Thank you so much, Nova Bro, for always sparing a moment to say hello to us. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. I hope you have a wonderful day too as well. So, when it comes to the UEFA Super Cup, usually, oftentimes, the UEFA Champions League winner wins it. But also, on paper, by all counts and measures, PSG is a much, much better team than Tottenham Hotspurs. However, if Tottenham Hotspurs can be twice defensively solid, the way they did play against Arsenal, then they could have a chance in that game. Pedri says hello. Pedri is finally joining us after 47 minutes, but it's good to have you on the broadcast. Always a pleasure to see you around. But like I said, guys, apologies. We started this a little late. What do you call a German boy who is bad at football? I don't know. I do not know much about the German language apart from the greeting, Guten Morgen. So I won't lie on that one. Anyways, so that's the situation when it comes to transfer rumors, gossip, and everything that you would want it to have. We talked about Timo Werner. You're always eager to take a dig at some of those players. Then Armando Broja is expected to leave Chelsea. I don't even know why Armando Broja is still a Chelsea player. Real Madrid Rodrigo says hi. Hi Rodrigo, how are you doing? Good to have you on the broadcast. It's a pleasure. Hey, get out of here. Real Madrid Rodrigo, Pedri here is a Barcelona fan, so you two are rivals. So please, do not mind him. He is just you guys are rivals. You can go ahead and have a dig at each other in the comment section. I wouldn't mind you guys. But whether you choose to engage him or not, that's up to you, Rodrigo. But yeah, Armando Broja, he spent last season away on loan. Is expected to leave Chelsea and join Burnley with the players' green light already arrived. I mean, teams that signed Armando Broja, the guy spends more time in the sick pay than on the playing turf. And for me, that's my challenge with him. He has the promise of being a good player, but oftentimes he gets injured. Bro, Modric has more Champions League. Like I said, you guys have the go at it. That's out on your Footballtribe. Hi, Rodrigo, how are you doing? Rodrigo, my parents want me to leave the house for 19 million euros. Do you think Sporting CP will struggle without their star player next season? night. They lost to Benfica. I do not think they will struggle, but I think they won't have a very easy season. Even last season, particularly, I think it has, while it is part and parcel with losing their best player in Victor Yokeres, but I think the most important piece was Ruben Amorim, because he is the one that brought back the glory days after 19 years of not winning major silverware in the Portuguese league. So it's a combination of both, losing the star player and losing your manager. So it's a combination of both. All robbed UEFA Champions League, by the way. Raul Asensio, you daddy. You guys are having a field day today. How I wish Hala Madrid was equally part of the broadcast. You guys would have a whole lot of banter. Olympic Marseille are not giving up in their pursuits for Timothy Weah as talks with Juventus continue. So we'll wait to hear on that. Then Paris Saint-Germain at the final stages of Lucas Chevalier a deal. So for about 50 million euros. We've discussed Darwin Nunes. Then Olympic Lyon are closing in on Tyler Morton deal with Liverpool for about 15 million pounds as a transfer fee. Negotiations are at the final stages. That's according to Fabrizio Romano. Let's wait and see how things will develop there. Chelsea continue to work on that deal for Xavi Simons. Again, we're waiting for finalization. Inter Milan are not giving up in their pursuit for Ademola Lookman. So, so the latest offer from Inter Milan of about 42 million euros plus 3 unexpected add-ons was formally turned down by Atlanta. They want at least 50 million euros. Then João Paulinho did complete his medicals today in Germany, ahead of completing that move to Tottenham on an initial season-long loan, in which they will take 100% care of his wages. No loan fee has been discussed, but they do have a buy option of about 30 million euros. So, but it is not mandatory. And then Nico O'Reilly takes on the new shirt number 33 after agreeing to a new deal. There he is staying. He was one of those players that Bayer Leverkusen were really targeting. Modric's last goal contribution for Real Madrid was an assist to Kunde in the Copa del Rey final. Like I said, you guys are having a go at it. Is Lokoman the best African player right now? I think I would put Mohamed Salah ahead of him, but he is a very good player. I think in 2023 he won African Player of the Year award. Because he guided Atlanta to the triumph of the UEFA Europa League when he scored the hat-trick in the finals against Bayer Leverkusen. Yes, Pedro also believes it's Salah. Again, it could be a difference of opinion, but me, I would choose Salah over him. I'm not wrong, though, right? Watch the highlights, Mr. Tribe. Like I said, even me, I would choose Mohamed Salah over him. But yeah, there's plenty of good African players out there. Okay. Then quickly, let's get a look at what the latest is from the rumor mill as compiled by a BBC Sport. Let's take a quick dive through. This is according to Lee Parisien in France, that Tottenham, Manchester United, and Newcastle are monitoring the situation of Paris Saint-Germain striker Rando Colomwani after the French international's move to Juventus has stalled. Remember, last season he spent the whole of it on loan to Juventus, and they want to make that move a permanent. You say there is no longer a top 4 in the Premier League, but now there is a top 8. All the teams have something to prove. That's true. I wouldn't say top 8, but the way the Premier League is that you have at least the top, at least about 6 teams strongly competing to finish within the top 4 or top 5, depending on the allocation of places for the UEFA Champions League. And then you have a team from usually 7th usually between 6th and 9th are trying to qualify for, UEFA Europa League football and the, usually even the 10th and 11th are still within contention for UEFA Conference League, a place until the final match of the season. So that's how I would segment that table, but I wouldn't say top 8 because top 8 would be an exaggeration really, because at the end of the day, usually the disparity between a sixth place team and an eventual champion could be about 20 points. So yeah. Then also Manchester United's Argentine winger Alejandro Garnacho is still keen on a move to Chelsea as he attempts to leave Old Trafford this summer. That's according to Fabrizio Romano. Then Chelsea's bid to sign RB Leipzig's Dutch forward Xavi Simons has hit a snag as the Bundesliga side do not want any of the Premier League clubs squad players in a part exchange. That's according to the Sun. While Valencia are closing in on a new deal for Spanish midfielder Javi Guerra, 22, who is attracting interest from Manchester United and AC Milan. Real Madrid, 15 UEFA Champions League, 5. Madrid, 15 UEFA Champions League, U5. Madrid, 38 La Liga, Brock, 28. Breaking news: Manchester United have signed Footballtribe from YouTube for $2 $2. Really? Yeah, I could pass for a clean at Old Trafford, but I mean, I wouldn't go for $2. Here we go. Anyway, bro, answer now. Shush, we beat you 5 times. Anyway, you guys have a go at it. Also, Valencia, okay, we've spoken about Valencia. West Ham have submitted a bid worth €8 million for Botafogo's Brazilian goalkeeper, Jean Victor, 29, while Galatasaray, Everton, and Manchester United have previously shown interest, that's according to Fabrizio Romano. Yeah, Manchester United did consider a concrete move for Jean Victor, although those rumors had died down in the last couple of days. Okay, I need to read your name correctly. Bon, is it John? I don't know how you pronounce your name. Saka score 6 goals, age 22. Sesko scored 13 goals, age 22. We can skip Isak and buy Sesko and Rodrigo for simple money. I think Johnson is a Liverpool fan. If I'm to guess, right. Your Swedish is asking. Beyond, his name is with a J, not with a Y. I do not know where you're getting the Y from. Isak scores 6 goals, age of 22. Sesko 13, age speak. I know. By the time Newcastle got Alexander Isak in 2022, he was far from a finished product. I'd watched him for me a couple of, more than just a couple of games to be convinced that he was going to be a stellar kind of striker. But yeah, they took a bet on a very good talent, and he's developed into what they expected he would be. So, Testa says, I'm off. Everyone, enjoy your evening or day, depending on where you are. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you so much, Testa, for sparing all those minutes to be with us as we also look to wrap this one up. Okay. Lyon are in talks with Liverpool over. We've talked about Taylor Morton. Manchester City are willing to sell English midfielder Jack Grealish, James McAtee, 22, and 29-year-old Calvin Phillips, as well as German goalkeeper Stefan Ortega, 32, this summer, provided they receive suitable offers. That's according to the Athletic. AZ Alkmaar left back David Mola, Wolf, 23, is traveling to England for a medical at Wolves with the Norwegian set for a £12 million move. That's according to Sky Sports. Meanwhile, Inter Milan defender Yannick Pesic, 24, has rejected a move to Crystal Palace, who had a £28 million bid who had a £20 million bid accepted for the German defender. That's according to Gazzetta dello Sport. Kenya 2026 World Cup winners. You wish they were. I want to check on Messi as Ronaldo him. I didn't understand that. Florentino Perez looks like okay. You guys go ahead and have your banter. Then Atalanta have rejected Okay, we've already discussed that. Atalanta rejecting Inter Milan's bid for Ademola Lookman. Then Middlesbrough have agreed a deal worth £3.5 million for Blackburn's English right back Calm Britannia. Sorry, Calm Britannia. Yes. Uh, is it Britannia? No, Britain. Yes. It's Calm Britain. Yes. Anyways, let's wait and see how things will work in the coming days. But yeah, transfers will continue to rage on. We are about what now? 14 days or 13 days away from the kickoff of the Premier League, because officially it's the 2nd of August and the Premier League kicks off on the 15th of August under the floodlights as Liverpool play, AFC Bournemouth, and then Spanish La Liga will also get underway, and football will be back. Although only for 3 weeks, and then we head into that most dreaded, September international break. But let's wait and see. Then Juventus are aware of 3 Premier League clubs in direct contact with the Luiz's camp. Nottingham Forest, Everton, both called in recent days, with the player keen on a Premier League return. Yeah, that one is expected to make the move this summer. Let's wait and see where it will tilt. Then Denzel Dumfries' release clause, which was believed to be about 20 million euros, has since expired. So, or any of those that may want to sign him may have to cough out a bigger fee for his transfer. Anyways, it's been 1 hour of doing this. The house get flooded with balloons. The referee, the blow. Remember, corner taken quickly. Now your mouth. Anyways, Real Madrid Rodrigo Jewa 8. Thank you so much for being part of this broadcast. LFC MXM4X. It was a pleasure to have you. Jet Horror. It was a pleasure having you. Thomas. Always a pleasure. Nkuna. Thank you so much for joining us. JY Tester. Always a pleasure seeing you around. ES 07 football. It was a pleasure having you. George Olport, always a pleasure seeing you around. Vam, it was a pleasure to see you around today. And let me see who else have I not mentioned. Nova Bro, Dylan Ash, always a pleasure to see you around. Pedri, always a pleasure to have you around on our broadcasts. Thank you so much, guys, for the love and support. It's always relieving to see you guys around. You give me the encouragement to, keep going, to keep on serving you, because you stay on with me even late in the night for these discussions, and you keep the engagement going. I appreciate all your questions, all your comments. Those that are less deserved, I do not usually take them at bad heart, but I do appreciate all your presence. Tribe, look at my comments. What comment have I not looked at? Isn't fries? You say sush. Isn't rice your favorite food? If that's the question you're making, you're referring to all the comments, then you're right. Mr. Tribe, what do you think of La Liga's new rules? The manager to get 2 chances to force the referee to check VAR. If they use one and it gets rejected, they lose 1. If it gets right, they keep both. Wow. I wasn't aware of that new rule, but I do understand, because I've always been one of the proponents, and this is particularly it happens quite commonly in the Premier League. One, managers are not, I do not know, are almost forbidden to comment about referees' performances in games. And yet, I always ask myself, if a manager or even a player does not have the audacity to comment about the performance of a referee, good or bad or poor, who then has the audacity? Because oftentimes that discussion is left to the fans and the pundits and commentators, who of course oftentimes come with their biases. But I believe a manager, as the #1 mouthpiece of the club, should have a say about the referee's performance, should come out openly say, I thought the referee was poor today because look at this decision in this minute or this instant or this phase of the game. Look at that. Look at that. All those were bad decisions. I mean, critique them for what they are, but for some reason they are under this protective umbrella of the FA and the pitch model and everything, which ends up giving us bad results. Now, when I transpose that to La Liga, giving managers that bit of leeway to raise up their arms and call the referee to say, please visit the monitor and have a look at this decision that you've just made. I think it's a good thing. Why? Because usually, even when managers are up in arms, usually when a decision has been made, usually a significant decision, whether it's a penalty that has not been given, whether it's a red card, usually they turn to one of their assistants who has a monitor before them to try and review. Sometimes they even go and watch it themselves. I do remember a particular incident with Mourinho. I think he was still at Tottenham Hotspurs. There's something that happened, and then his assistant that had reviewed this incident alerted him, and then somebody was laughing, went with a straight face to to the referee. So I believe it's a very, very good thing. It's a good thing. However, managers may have to tread carefully, especially when it comes to language, because football in its nature, like any other sport, is a game of emotions. We are passionate about certain sides because we want them to win. Sometimes we are blinded by those very emotions because that's how passionate we are about them. So if excuse me, so if they are giving a manager an opportunity to protest a decision in real time, which sometimes has the capability to overturn a result or to turn a result in a particular direction, which it wouldn't have gone. I think that's a very good thing, because how many times have we sat before our screens or gone to social media to sort of mourn or vent over there for a decision, for a poor decision that has happened in the game, that has had a significant impact on the result of the game, and yet the result is not going to change, even when a post review from referee committees and other previous referees come out to say that was the wrong decision. How many times have we seen that? So because we've seen that one too many times across many leagues in Europe, I believe that giving the managers that opportunity, although it's as small as it is, because if you get it wrong in the first instance, then you lose the other opportunity. I believe it will not solve all the problems in terms of officiations, but it does give them that advantage, really. It does give them that benefit of doubt. If indeed that's what is the case, as you suggest in that comment. So it would give them that leeway to look at a moment, to revisit a moment, quickly to call the referee and say, please look at this incident. That player also deserves to get a red card. And maybe now, when it comes to a player send-off, that's where things may get a bit tricky, because we know players are not allowed to suggest to players are not allowed to suggest to referees to dish out red cards and yellow cards and things of that nature. But even managers, when they are on the touchline, when they try and signal, our cards to be issued by referees, I've seen in some cases referees come to the managers and show them yellow cards themselves, because they are trying to direct what the referee should be doing, and yet they shouldn't be doing that. So I believe if that's going to be the case, particularly in La Liga, I think it's a good thing. I hope it gets used well, and I think it will be a benchmark for many leagues that may adopt it in the future, because a lot of times referees have made bad decisions and managers could have appealed those decisions in real time. Just imagine your player gets sent off because the VAR didn't do a good review or had ignored the incident, and then you alert the referee to that because of what you've been able to see on a quick replay on your own screen, and call the referee to say, please revisit that decision. I think, yes, while this was what you may have seen, but look at it in this perspective and that kind of thing. But let's wait and see how everything will work out. But thank you so much for bringing us to the know of that. Perhaps I will try to, look into it a little more, and I see what other people or what kind of feelings or sentiments there is to that kind of rule or suggestion in the game. No one eats rice but Madrid fans. They also eat sloth. I don't know. But why are we arguing? Ask yourself first. We don't have shared Guinness. Okay. Anyways, guys, I think you've had the fair share go at it between uh, Real Madrid Rodrigo and Mes Pedri. Guys, allow me wrap it here. It's been 1 hour and 10 minutes of doing this with you. It's been a pleasure having you guys around. So let's link up again tomorrow for our broadcast in the morning hours. I do not know if I can make it at 9. I'll be here at 9, but anywhere between 9 and 10 a.m. should be the time we do get on. That's East African time for tomorrow's live broadcast. Guys, have yourselves a wonderful rest of the night. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.